Uh-oh.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of debate, on both sides of whether it's good for boxing, whether it's good for women, whether it's good, and there's always going to be that,
split. Yeah.
There's always going to be that split in opinion. For me personally, I think, they have got a drive on at the moment for empowering women, and they are trying to not develop boxing, but they are trying to develop, the freedoms that women have and the social ideology behind, the women's role. So it would be good to be a part of that and maybe potentially help aid that. But then, like I say, there's always going to be a split of opinion of should we be boxing there with the human rights and whatever. So it's a tough one. But yeah, it definitely, we are prize fighters at the end of the day, and when the big opportunities like that come, you'd be stupid to turn it down. So, but it has to be for the right reasons and with the right intentions behind it.
Natasha Jonas mentioned the ongoing discussion as to whether or not it's at all ethical for fighters to fight in that region of the world, fight in Saudi, given the human rights violations. I don't engage in those discussions. I don't get political when it comes to boxing because my country of origin and anybody in it is in no position to wag their finger in somebody else's face over what they're doing in their region of the world, their country, their politics versus ours.
Their sins versus ours.
Let he who is without sin cast the first stone.
I don't do it. What, because things are all cookie crunchy in America and America never spilled any blood? America never did anything wrong. No, I don't get into it. I don't bother. I stick to the boxing.
Shut up.
One thing I did notice with these Riyadh season shows, the ones happening in Saudi and the ones happening outside of it, is they didn't feature any women's bouts. Now, if women's bouts are not popular or accepted in that region of the world, I can understand. But when you're doing a show in the UK or you're doing a show in the US, it might not hurt to add one or two women's bouts to it, because I noticed that there were no women's bouts in Crawford versus Madrimov, and there are no women's bouts in the upcoming Joshua versus Dubois fight.
I would have liked to have seen some.
Yesterday, His Excellency took to his social media and stated, "Suggest for me 10 fights in boxing you would like to see this year and the next one."
Obviously, I had a long list of fights in mind. Fights I'd like to see.
But what I would also like to see is that Bantamweight tournament that Lou DiBella has been talking about, the one he's trying to put together with all of the champions and top contenders in that division.
IBF champion Miyo Yoshida, WBA champion Shernika Johnson, Unified Ring Magazine champion Dina Thorsland. That would be a hell of a tournament. I mean, every single fight with every single one of those fighters, you can mix and match the names and you'd get an action fight every single time. That's how good it would be.
Some are saying that the Saudis are trying to change public perception of their nation, their country, how they're viewed by the rest of the world by staging these sporting events and attempting to become the entertainment capital of the world. And one step in that direction would be to stage a women's tournament. It would.
It doesn't have to be in Saudi.
They've already done one show in America. They're set to do their first in the UK. You could do this tournament somewhere else.
It doesn't have to be in Saudi.
If there just isn't a market, an audience for a women's tournament in that region of the world, that's okay. That's all right. You can do it somewhere else. And I'll tell you that it will be more cost-effective, cost-feasible. You won't have to spend anywhere near as much on that tournament as what you would have had to spend on Gervonta, what you would have had to spend on Canelo.
No.
I think these women would appreciate this opportunity a lot more than some of these men, some of these spoiled brats.
Yeah.
And so if it's all about changing the world's perceptions of Saudi Arabia and its people, its customs, one way you can do that is to financially back a women's tournament, because that's something a lot of people wouldn't expect of the Saudis.
It wouldn't be a bad idea.
A tournament format featuring all the relevant players at 118 pounds, but it doesn't just have to be the women. You can also do a tournament format for the champions at 126 or 130 or cruiserweight. These divisions that need attention and consolidation.
The contest of champions!
In keeping with the scale of everything Turkey is trying to do in boxing, for boxing, it'd be a lot easier to get those fighters in those divisions to play ball than, say, Gervonta Davis or Canelo Alvarez. And what money you would have to spend on just those two fighters, you could accommodate that many more fighters, that many more champions, to make that many more fights.
We know that Turkey likes tournaments. Look at the Matchroom versus Queensberry show. That was essentially a tournament. And now they're doing another one. The tournament format
For the men, for the women, is not often seen in the sport with any regularity because one promoter or one platform doesn't have the means, the money, the resources to do it. But Turkey, Saudis, they do.
Trying to do a tournament in the sport of pro boxing can be a logistics nightmare, because for a single promoter or for a single platform, it's a lot to do, a lot of fighters to work with, a lot to coordinate. But the Saudis have the means and the money that no one promoter have.
No one promoter has. More than getting just one or two big-name fighters to play ball with Turkey, I would actually rather see him do these tournaments. And just in keeping with the theme of things Turkey might do, His Excellency wants to work with Naoya Inoue and give him a fight outside of Japan. I want Inoue. I want this guy. I think all the people need to see him, because now he's only known by the people in Japan, and some fans outside of Japan. I think that fighter can be a very big name if he goes outside of Japan.
I think in his heart, Turkey is a boxing fan. He wants to put on the best boxing matches with the best boxers.
I understand his desire to work with Naoya Inoue, who's already fought 4 times outside of Japan, by the way, but I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's needed, and being honest with you, I would actually prefer he stay in Japan, because with Naoya Inoue, unlike some American fighters or fighters based out of America, I never have to worry about one of his fights. I never have to worry or argue why it's not happening, why aren't they fighting, what's going on. It doesn't happen with him.
Travel outside of Japan to fight who?
Now that we know that Inoue is going to spend more time at 122, that he's not actually in a hurry to move up from 122 up to 126, what Turkey can do is stage a tournament at 126 so that an undisputed champion can be crowned. And then if you want to do something with Inoue, do that with him. Let him fight the winner of that fight.
That tournament.
Well, of course, you could work on an Inoue versus Akhmadaliev fight. You could probably work with him on that. But is MJ Akhmadaliev the guy that Inoue has to leave Japan for? You're telling me that Inoue's got to leave Japan to fight that guy?
On what? An undercard?
Somebody's undercard? A guy who headlines his own shows. What did he fight in front of? 20,000 or 30,000 people or whatever it was in the Luis Nery fight? He's going to leave his audience, his adoring public, paying public, to fight on somebody's undercard.
Come on.
At the risk of sounding repetitive, there are other boxers spread across other divisions that could use Turkey's assistance more than Naoya Inoue. Inoue's alright. He's doing just fine all by himself in Japan. And while he might be a bigger name if he fought outside of there more often, he doesn't need to.
He is a bigger name in Japan, worth more money in Japan than many American fighters are worth here in America. He's a bigger star in Japan than many Americans are stars in America. It's just the truth. He's not the guy that needs help. The biggest fight for Inoue isn't even at 126, involving a 126-pounder. No, that needs to be built. The biggest fight for Inoue right now is right there in Japan, and that's a potential Junto Nakatani fight. That fight would be a whale of a fight when the time comes. A monster. Inoue doesn't need anything.
So while I understand His Excellency's desire to work with this fighter and do something with him, there are other fighters, other champions that could really use his help to get some attention on themselves.
If what you want to do is help the sport of boxing and help it grow,
it really isn't a sharp focus on established names and established fighters you need. What you need to do is get more attention on the guys and some of the girls that aren't getting attention. Because the established names, well, they're doing all right. They're already doing all right, just fine by themselves. Inoue may end up seeing action 3 times this calendar year. He already fought Luis Neri. He's en route to fight TJ Haney. Then after that, he's taking on Sam Goodman.
Busy fighter, busy schedule.
With an audience that he has amassed over time, he's not the guy that needs any assistance, any help.
Give that attention to the featherweights, the super featherweights.
Give it to the cruisers.
It's those fighters in those divisions that really need a shot in the arm.
Elsewhere in the world of boxing, a video of 2-division champion Devon Haney getting into it with a civilian, appears to be a non-boxer.
This is embarrassing.
Because it's either he hit the guy and couldn't put him down, or he missed the guy and still couldn't put him down.
This from the guy who said he wants to be a role model for small children, to be mindful of his behavior. You know, in the press conference ahead of the Ryan Garcia fight, is this what a role model does?
And so one of the guys in Devon's entourage ended up getting into it with that civilian. They got into it, then walked off. Ryan Garcia caught wind of all of this and said, I wonder what the commission would do if I fought someone and it was caught on camera. Thing is, he punches so soft, maybe they will let it slide and call it play fighting. Who knows?
Okay, that was kind of funny.
Devon has a way of embarrassing himself at times. I remember after the Jorge Linares fight, he went to Jorge's locker room and asked him about his power, whether or not he hit hard.
Was it good for you?
Ryan embarrassed him. We know that Ryan embarrassed him. He had to cheat to do it, but he still did it.
Still a cheater.
And now this. Devon embarrasses himself once again with this. Ryan continued, he couldn't even drop a civilian. Also, you talked about being a great role model. You really punched someone while your whole team jumps one guy. Sounds pretty ditty to me.
It's not a good look for Devon, but that doesn't make Ryan any more likable. Ryan the bigot, Ryan the Islamophobe.
Even if Devon Haney is once again embarrassing himself, you're still a jackass. You're still an asshole. An asshole who said, find me the victim of the Devon Haney attack. I want to help him out to show him some moves on how to defeat a Haney. So if you guys can find me him, I'll personally show him the left hook.
Does anybody know what started all of this?
Well, according to Devon Haney, it was all because of a racial slur. Devon said, based on the way you guys use that N-word, you guys would probably be the best of friends.
That's what started it.
It's still not a good idea for a professional boxer, one who is licensed to box, to be the one that throws the first punch in a street fight. That's a good way to get yourself in trouble. That's a quick way to get yourself sued.
Sued for what? Devon didn't leave a scratch on that guy. He didn't drop him or nothing.
No, but a member of his entourage did, and Devon's the one who incited the violence. He's the one who threw the first punch, so, you know.
It's not a good idea.
Not very surprising that one as bigoted and prejudicial, as racist as Ryan Garcia would find it at all comical that some guy's hurling racial slurs.
Ryan is just another pocho having an identity crisis.
Another one of these Yono Sabos that fancies himself one of the good old boys.
Idiot.
These two kids need to fight again. I mean, the best option for Devon is Ryan, and the best option for Ryan is Devon. I feel like they're both done at 140 pounds. I mean, technically, Ryan never made it. Technically, Ryan was never really there. If they intend to campaign north of 140 at 147 moving forward, well, there's a lot of peril at 147 for these two. A lot of high-risk, low-reward guys. So for running that gauntlet and running those risks, they should probably settle up with each other as soon as possible.
Here comes the silver lining.
I spent a bit of time with Ryan Garcia, and I was very surprised and interested.
He called me yesterday.
What are your thoughts?
First of all, I like this guy. And second, I want to do big fight with him. And he asked me to do the rematch between him and Haney. And we want to see this fight.
I would love to see that fight.
But I will tell you my situation now. I was the Minister of Sport in my country, and after that, the Minister of Entertainment in my country. I am against the drugs and against everything about it. I said to Ryan Garcia, you must pass the test and clear yourself, and I am waiting for you. And this is fair. He have a suspension in America. He can do something in Saudi Arabia, but I will not do it in Saudi Arabia. I will respect the suspension. But if he solve his problem, we are ready to do something with him.
Turki Alalshikh is willing to pay for the rematch, stage the rematch. And if you're Devon, and if you're Ryan, that's your best option, to be in a big money fight that has a profile, that has drawing power, because fighting someone else at 147 might be a risky endeavor. Those guys up there are bigger than you two, punch harder than you two.
I don't know that either Devon or Ryan would make it past Brian Norman. I don't know for sure that either Devon or Ryan would make it past a Montestanionis, let alone Jaron Ennis.
If Turkey is interested in financing the rematch between these two, I imagine it won't be at 140 pounds, because technically Ryan never made it. He's not at 147 because he's belt hunting.
He'd be up there because he's too lazy to make 140.
Devon has been busting at the seams for at least 2 years now, at 135 and even at 140, just 2 fights in. A fight with Ryan Garcia isn't about a belt and doesn't require one. It's about revenge. It's about vengeance.
Can he get it?
I think he can. Rematches are often won by the fighter who can change, the fighter who can adapt, the one who can make the most adjustments. That's Devon more than Ryan, in spite of Devon's lack of punching power.
He's more of a strategist than Ryan. Ryan is just using what little he has. His height, his length, and his strength.
Don't forget his speed.
But you can beat speed, counteract it with timing. And I think Devon can time Ryan with the lead hand, with the jab.
To win a ho-hum decision, if Devon beats Ryan, it wouldn't be in the same fashion that Ryan beat Devon, quote-unquote beat Devon. No, I don't think Devon knocks him out, but I do think Devon would outpoint him.
Quote-unquote beat Devon?
Ryan cheated. It's very obvious that he cheated. It's very obvious that he skirted around the rules. He deliberately used the banned substance, like he deliberately blew the weight and came in 3 pounds over.
It's always been my stance.
Ryan thinks he's above the rules. His social media following is why, that he's got all these fans and all these supporters, having never really fought for a belt, never really been a champion.
He's not a good fighter.
And he only won because he cheated, because he was using Osterin in the build-up, because he came in 3 pounds over. Devon's emaciating himself, weakening himself to make 140, whereas Ryan decided he didn't have to do that. So the night of the fight, he's coming into it with more in the tank than Devon.
It's the only reason he won. He's not a good fighter.
Devon will take what he learned from the first fight to be careful not to continually walk into left hooks, stepping into the jab. He'll tighten up, stay behind his own.
Time Ryan.
A big part of the reason he kept walking into that left hook is because he was wide open for it, stepping into the jab.
He'll be more careful next time.
And so I think Devon would win a rematch if and when a rematch takes place. Ryan's going to be tested.
You heard what Turkey said. He's against doping in the sport.
And because of what happened in the first fight, that Ryan came in 3 pounds over, they might stipulate heavy financial penalties if he tries to pull that crap again. He won't have any advantages.
And he's not a good fighter.
He's a bimbo, a male bimbo, a mimbo.
A dingbat.
One of these airhead Gen Z kids who thinks he's got pretty privilege, which isn't really becoming of a man.
He's not much of a man.
Or much of a boxer. I think Devon beats him in a rematch.